The girl with the mop. The doors of the Nova Bank corporate tower slid open with a soft hiss. The building stood tall in the center of Neo-Terra, shining with chrome walls and blue lights. It was home to the most powerful banking empire in the galaxy. And yet, that morning, someone unusual walked through its doors. A young black girl named Lyra stepped in, wearing a plain gray janitor's uniform. Her dark curls were tied back tightly, and in her hand, she held an old-style mop. No gadgets, no glowing ID tags, just a mop. People in the lobby stared. "She's too young for this job," one employee whispered. "Probably some test-run intern." "What a joke," said another. Lyra didn't react. She moved silently toward the janitor's station, where a small cleaning bot buzzed and beeped. The floor manager, a tired-looking man with glasses named Mr. Halvin, barely looked at her. "You, floor 49, executive level. Don't make a mess," he muttered. Lyra nodded once. She didn't say anything. Her eyes scanned the room as she moved. She noticed everything: names on badges, whispered complaints, who smiled, and who sneered. She pressed the elevator button. As she rode up alone, she pulled up her wrist pad. It was hidden under her sleeve. Recording started. 5 days earlier. In the CEO's private suite, high above the tower, Lyra stood beside her father, Marcus Newell, CEO of Novabank. He was tall, serious, and respected by leaders across the solar system. "I want to do it, Dad," Lyra had said. "I want to see what the staff really act like when they think no one important is watching." Marcus looked at her carefully. "This won't be easy, Lyra. You'll hear things, see things. I need to. If I'm going to help run this place one day, I need to know the truth." He finally nodded. "Okay, but you record everything. Every word, every action. If they fail, it won't be because we didn't give them a chance." Back to present day. The elevator doors opened on floor 49. The hallway smelled like new furniture and fake flowers. Everything was shiny. Too perfect. Lyra stepped out with her mop and bucket. People looked at her like she didn't belong. She quietly started cleaning a glass wall. A man in a sharp black suit walked by. He stopped and laughed. "Hey, careful with that mop, little girl. We don't want puddles in front of billion-dollar accounts." Another woman, wearing gold glasses and a pin that read VP Operations, added, "Did HR run out of proper training? She's holding that thing like it's a spear." The group laughed. Lyra didn't react. She just bent down and continued wiping. Inside her sleeve, her wrist pad was recording it all. A young assistant walked up to her later, handing her a small trash bag. "Take this to the incinerator chute. It's not your job, but you look free." Lyra nodded again. She took the bag, but made a mental note of the assistant's name. As the day passed, Lyra saw how people treated her. Some ignored her, some insulted her, some used her to carry things that weren't her job. No one thanked her. No one asked her name. They just assumed. She was just a janitor, just background noise. At lunchtime, she sat in a storage closet with her mop and wrist pad. She whispered to herself, "They don't see me, but soon they will." She tapped her screen. Log 01 uploaded to secure server. Then she stood up and picked up the mop again. There were more floors to clean, and more truths to uncover. The CEO's silent test. The next morning, Lyra arrived early, before most of the staff even stepped through the main doors of Novabank's tower. She wore the same gray janitor's uniform. She carried the same mop. But this time, she walked with even more focus. Her wrist pad, hidden under her sleeve, quietly blinked blue. It had recorded everything from the day before, every rude comment, every order tossed her way like she didn't matter. Today, she was assigned to clean the 50th floor. That was where the senior managers worked, the people who made the rules, the ones who thought they owned the place. As Lyra entered the upper lobby, she could hear loud laughter coming from the break lounge. "Did you see that girl yesterday? The mop warrior?" a man joked. "That janitor? She looked like a school dropout," a woman answered with a loud laugh. Lyra walked past them with her mop, pretending not to hear. But inside, her heart burned. Not with anger, but with purpose. She had a mission: to see how deep the disrespect ran, to see who deserved to stay and who would be leaving when her father saw the final report. Later in the day, one of the senior managers, Mr. Cormax, called her over. He was tall, older, and wore a bright red suit with gold trim. His desk was larger than her entire school dorm. "You." "Yes, janitor girl," he said loudly. "My office floor needs extra cleaning, but don't touch the digital walls. Last girl fried the panel." "Yes, sir," Lyra said calmly. He didn't thank her. Instead, he turned to his assistant and whispered loudly, "We really are lowering our standards. Next, we'll be hiring street kids to handle security." Lyra kept her head down, but her wristpad was already recording. As she mocked his office, he continued bragging about how many staff he had fired last year. "Disrespect, laziness, bad clothes. I don't tolerate it," he said. "Everyone must act perfect in front of me, especially the low-level ones." When Lyra stepped outside, his assistant rolled her eyes. "He talks like he's a god. You're lucky. He didn't yell today." Lyra simply nodded. Another note logged. In the afternoon, a tech glitch caused the cleaning bots to shut down. A senior HR officer stormed into the janitor station. "All bots down. Then you clean the executive restrooms. Now, no excuses." Lyra said nothing, but inside, she knew this was illegal. Bots were required in high-security zones, but they didn't care. She wasn't a bot. She was just the girl with the mop. By the time Lyra finished work that day, her hands were tired and her feet ached. But she didn't stop. She uploaded the full day's footage to her private secure channel, one only her father had access to. Then she wrote a small message. Day 2. Senior staff are worse than I expected. Many judge based on appearance. Disrespect is common. Tomorrow, I'll enter the finance sector floor. She pressed send, and just as she powered down her wristpad, a new message came in. From her father. "Continue. You're doing well. Keep watching. I'm proud of you." A small smile appeared on Lyra's face. They still didn't know who she really was, but they would soon. Whispers behind her back. The third day began like the others. Lyra entered the Nova Bank Tower in her janitor uniform, head low, mop in hand. But something was different today. As she walked past the front desk, a few employees looked at her longer than usual. They whispered to each other and smirked. "She's still here," one asked. "I heard she made a mess in the exec bathrooms," another said, clearly lying. Lyra heard everything but kept walking. She had been assigned to clean the 67th floor, the financial operations level. It was where top analysts, investors, and AI coders worked. Access was limited, even for most staff. But Lyra had clearance. Thanks to a silent override her father had placed inside her wristpad. The doors opened with a quiet chime, and Lyra stepped onto a sleek floor with glass walls, floating desks, and glowing crypto ledgers lining the ceiling. She barely had time to move when someone barked at her. "Hey, what are you doing here?" A young man in a white uniform rushed over. His name tag read Faris, Security Analyst I. "This floor's restricted. You're not supposed to be up here." Lyra calmly showed her cleaning assignment. Faris snatched the pad from her hand. "Who approved this? You? Don't tell me this is real." He turned to his co-workers. "Guys, look, she's scheduled to clean the finance wing. They're letting janitors walk around our sensitive files now." Laughter echoed. Lyra said nothing. She quietly took back her assignment sheet and moved to start her work. But the insults didn't stop. "I bet she doesn't even know how to read crypto flow. Maybe we should teach her what a digital asset is. She's probably just here to steal data." That last one caught Lyra's attention. She looked up, slowly. Faris saw her expression and laughed nervously. "Kidding. Chill. Go on, mop your numbers." A few hours later, a more serious problem happened. The finance servers glitched for 11 seconds. And instantly, someone pointed at Lyra. She was near the console. "I saw her." Security bots rolled toward her. One even extended a scanning probe. But before they could touch her, Lyra raised her wristpad and tapped something quickly. The bots paused. then stood down. Everyone stared. What did she just do? Someone whispered. She hacked the bots? Another gasped. Ferris stepped forward, eyes wide. Who are you? Lyra calmly said, I'm just the janitor. Right? Then she walked away. Down in the janitor's break room, the mood was different. An older cleaner named Tama leaned over and whispered to Lyra. I've been watching you, she said. You don't clean like a janitor. Lyra froze. You clean like someone observing, Tama added. Like someone testing. Lyra glanced at her. Tama nodded slowly. I won't tell, but be careful. They're starting to talk. That night, Lyra uploaded the day's data. She labeled the file. Finance flaw, false accusations, bot abuse, staff profiling. Then she sent a secure message to her father. They accused me of sabotage today, without proof. If I wasn't your daughter, I would have been arrested. She waited. And then a reply came. Time to test HR next. We'll see how they treat the lowest. Lyra looked up at the sky above the station's dome. They still didn't know. But judgment was getting closer. Mistakes HR can't erase. The next morning, Lyra received a new assignment. Her cleaning schedule had been suddenly changed. Now she was told to report to human resources on the 33rd floor. She knew what this meant. Someone filed a complaint. Still, she didn't argue. She grabbed her mop and headed for the elevator. As she entered the HR floor, the mood was colder, more formal. There were no jokes or open mocking here, but the eyes watching her were sharper. A woman in a silver suit waved her over. Janitor Lyra, correct? Lyra nodded. Come with me. We've had concerning reports. Inside a glass-walled meeting room, 3 people sat at a long black desk. Their nameplates read, Mr. Carvin, HR lead. Ms. Relo, legal advisor. Agent Yes, security oversight. Mr. Carvin looked annoyed from the start. Do you know why you're here, janitor? He asked, not kindly. Lyra kept her voice calm. I was told there was a complaint. Carvin nodded. Yes, multiple employees claim you accessed sensitive systems, disrupted workflow, and acted in a suspicious manner. Ms. Relo leaned forward. This is a serious matter. Novabank has zero tolerance for espionage or internal sabotage. Agent Yes said nothing. He simply watched Lyra carefully. Lyra looked at them, quiet for a moment. Then she tapped her wrist pad. A small light blinked blue. The room changed. Suddenly, all 3 HR officials received an alert on their own screens. Secure footage received. Verified timestamp. Department approval. It was a recording, taken directly from the bank's own security system. In it, Ferris and the other finance staff could be heard laughing, insulting her, and then accusing her after a server glitched they had nothing to do with. There was no proof she caused anything. In fact, the footage showed she hadn't even touched the server. Silence filled the room. Carvin cleared his throat. Where did you get this? I recorded everything, Lyra replied softly. You recorded staff without permission. Ms. Relo snapped. I used passive audit functions installed by the board, Lyra answered, for testing purposes. Agent Yes's eyes narrowed. What kind of testing? But Lyra only smiled and said, Is this meeting over? Later that day, HR tried to quietly close the complaint. They offered Lyra a transfer back to lower floors, but she refused. Instead, she requested an audit of the finance floor and sent a copy of her recording to 2 departments, internal ethics and executive oversight. Within hours, alarms began ringing, not loud ones, but corporate ones. Soft emails, silent pings, investigations. Ferris and his team received warnings. Mr. Carvin was placed under internal review for mishandling protocol. That evening, Lyra went back to the janitor's break room. Tama, the older janitor, smiled slightly. I heard they're afraid of you now. Lyra sat quietly. They're afraid of the truth. Tama sipped her tea. Same thing sometimes. Lyra checked her wrist pad. A message blinked. Good. Phase 3. Prepare to clean the CEO's suite. She stared at the screen. The next test would be the hardest, because the CEO was her father, and he didn't know how corrupt his own upper staff had become. But Lyra would show him. And when the truth came out, Nova Bank would never be the same. Cleaning the CEO's secrets. The sun didn't rise in space, but Lyra felt the weight of a new day as she stepped off the private lift onto the 100th floor, the CEO level. This floor was quiet, too quiet. No gossip, no laughing staff, only glass walls, soft lighting, and golden floors that never seemed to get dirty. Lyra held her mop anyway. A voice spoke from the hallway. Janitorial staff don't usually come up here. It was Ms. Veris, the CEO's personal assistant, tall, sharp, cold. She looked at Lyra like a fly had entered her garden. Lyra bowed slightly. I was told to clean the CEO's suite. Veris raised an eyebrow. Strange. The suite is always auto-cleaned. She paused, then added with a slight smirk, very well. Just don't touch anything. Lyra nodded and entered the suite. The CEO's office was huge. A view of the stars stretched across the ceiling. A soft white desk glowed in the center. And behind it was a tall man with gray eyes and a powerful presence. CEO Davian Vale. Lyra's father. He didn't even look up when she entered. He simply said, "Leave the door open. I'm in a meeting soon." Lyra kept her face down. He didn't recognize her. Not in janitor clothes, not with her hair tied back, not after 5 years apart. She quietly started cleaning the side area, moving slow, letting her wrist pad scan the room. Not for dust, for data. She wasn't here to sweep. She was here to confirm a suspicion. Someone in upper management was feeding sensitive data to rival banks. And she had a feeling the leak started right here. As she wiped the edges of a shelf, her wrist pad buzzed once. Encrypted signal found. Hidden relay detected under CEO's desk. Lyra froze. No way. Her father's own office had been tapped. She leaned slightly forward, pretending to mop, and slid a tiny tracker under the desk leg. In seconds, the data was uploading. Suddenly, Davian's voice boomed behind her. "Stop." Lyra turned slowly. He was staring at her, confused. "You look familiar," he said. Lyra swallowed. "Just a janitor, sir." But then he stepped closer. His eyes narrowed. "What's your name?" "Lyra," she said softly. His breath caught. "Lyra Val?" Before he could speak again, Ms. Veris walked in. "Sir, the board meeting is ready." She glanced at Lyra, annoyed. Why is she still here? Davian didn't answer right away. His eyes were still locked on Lyra. She didn't break the stare. Finally, she stepped forward and whispered, "Dad, someone is spying on you, from your own team." She tapped her wrist pad and transferred the encrypted proof to his terminal. Veris looked confused. "What is she?" But Davian raised a hand. "Quiet." He stared at the data. His face hardened. "It's real," he said. Lyra nodded. "And it's not just you. Lower staff are being abused, manipulated, ignored." He looked at her again, this time truly seeing her. "What are you doing here?" he asked. She smiled faintly. "Cleaning up your company." The reveal that shook Nova Bank. The next morning, Nova Bank's headquarters was busier than usual. All senior managers were called to the main conference hall on level 50. No reason given, just a direct message from the CEO's office. Emergency staff review. Attendance mandatory. Everyone came. From arrogant team leads to floor supervisors, including the rude employees who had mocked Lyra all week. Some even joked as they walked in. "Maybe someone left the coffee machine on again," one chuckled. Another laughed. "Bet it's about that janitor girl. Maybe she broke something." They had no idea. The lights dimmed. The main screen lit up. Suddenly, a video started playing, security footage and hidden recordings from the past week. It showed employees laughing at Lyra, pushing tasks onto her, mocking her appearance, calling her useless. Then it showed Lyra entering the CEO's suite, discovering the hidden spy device under her father's desk, and handing over proof of a traitor inside the company. Whispers filled the room. "Wait, that janitor. That's not possible. No way she got into the CEO's office. But then came the final scene. Lyra standing beside the CEO. Davy and Val walked onto the stage in real time now, no longer behind a screen. He looked out at the stunned crowd. He spoke calmly, but each word hit hard. This past week, one person in this building showed courage, wisdom, and loyalty. Not the managers, not the directors. A girl you all ignored. He turned slightly. My daughter, Lyra Val. Gasps echoed. A few employees stood in shock. Others hung their heads in shame. Lyra stepped onto the stage beside her father. This time, she wasn't in janitor clothes. She wore a sharp black uniform with the Nova Bank emblem shining gold. She looked out over the people who had insulted her. Her voice was calm, clear, and sharp. I wasn't here to clean your floors. I was here to clean this company. She tapped her wrist pad. Names appeared on the screen. Employees marked red. These staff failed the test. Rude to customers. Disrespectful to team members. Blind to injustice. People began to panic. Ms. Vaughn, the floor supervisor who once kicked a mop bucket at her, stood and shouted, "This isn't fair. We didn't know who you were." Lyra replied without emotion. That's the point. You should treat everyone with respect, not just someone with a title. By the end of the meeting, several employees were removed from their positions. Others were put under review. And Lyra? She was offered a permanent role on the Board of Ethics, directly reporting to the CEO. From just a janitor to one of the most powerful people in the tower. As she walked past the same people who laughed at her, nobody said a word. They just watched and remembered.